News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth, darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian. And in addition to wishing my good buddy Liam Neeson a happy birthday, I also want to wish you all a very happy World Food Safety Day.
Now, that could mean a lot of things, Max. So what, I mean, just is this health
Safe
standards
food.
or is this
Safe
just not?
food, yes, health standards.
Health standards, and also what it also brought up was I had a recent food situation that I wanted to ask Allan about. It's more food science.
Okay. Well, it'll really be hard to get Allan to talk about that stuff.
I'm chumming the waters here.
Yeah, no kidding. So, all right. Well, hey, speaking of chumming the waters, our good buddy, unless some critical roofing emergency comes up.
I don't know. It's clouding up out there. He might get called away.
Our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling is supposed to be in sometime this morning, and I don't know when, because with him, he moves in mysterious ways. He gets here when he gets here. So, okay, so that's going to be good. And Max, I am kind of interested in Food Safety Day because, I mean, that's kind of all encompassing. And really, you know, when you talk about changing civilization, even just over the last 100 years, that's one of the most important.
One word for you, Joe.
Yeah.
Refrigerator.
Bingo. There you go. Exactly. Think of what life was like even 100 years ago or 150 years ago. So, all right. I have a tool tale, Allan. I've been, well, if we get to it, maybe I better not over tease, but I would also be interested in Max's and Jay's opinion on this. I'm really becoming tempted by this little tool that keeps popping up on Facebook. You know, these sponsored ads that show up. Mm-hmm. It's a mini table saw. I don't know. It looks goofy. It looks like you could throw it literally in the back of, in the trunk of your car or something. But anyway, I want to round table that with you.
I have a couple of miniature tool sets.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, Max, in honor of D-Day, because we know, you are a patriot, but you're also interested in great battles of history, right?
I'm more of a history buff and everything, but it just so happens that I have a lot of emphasis on like American history and stuff too, and military history.
And so this is almost like a / Critter Wars and from the mind of Max. And so also in Allan's Week in Review, I don't even know how to categorize this, Allan. You sent me some pictures, and I'm like, that's like 2 shows worth of material that you accomplished in 1 week.
Yep.
I hope you had help. I mean,
I had a little bit of help here and there. Yeah, I did. But the big one I want to bring up is we're going to have to talk about the fence.
Okay, gotcha. All right, the fence. The fence sounds like, okay, well, maybe.
We'll get there.
Okay.
It's worth it. Hang in there.
We have a lot more. In fact, I have a second tool tale. We have a lot here, but given that, Jay's coming in, we're not going to over tease because we want to leave room for whatever he wants to bring to the table. But I also want to just say, if, last week we were talking about therapy tools and tools and jobs that we find actually relaxing and therapeutic.
Weren't you talking about that with Tim Van Horn on Buy, Sell, or Stay?
I was, yeah. Everybody wanted to get in on it. So if you've still got, that's still out there on the table. If you missed, your chance to get in touch with us last week, feel free to get in touch with us this week. If you've got that particular tool, maybe you love whipping out the router and, making, unique cuts with that and everything. Feel free, get in touch with us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. But before we get to any of those things, let's get to our must-have item of the week. Now, I posted this on Facebook, and I really suggest you go over there and look at it because I'm going to try, Allan. It's hard to describe what this looks like, I suppose.
No, it's really easy to describe.
Okay, well, tell people, and let me see if that can... well, that doesn't do any good. I was trying to make a sound with it, but it doesn't work. But
you're a little too
too well oiled. So.
Well oiled up there.
All right. Well, what do we got here?
What you've got in your hand there is affectionately known as a swing clear offset door hinge.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, but it's
basically it's a bent hinge.
Yeah, we've seen. I'm sure all of you know what a door hinge looks like. Mm-hmm. Well, imagine a door hinge that instead of the little pin that's in the front, imagine that comes out a bit like over the trim. It does almost like an L shape. This thing is like an L-shaped hinge, and then when you open it, it's almost like a S shape and everything. But there's a reason you use these things, Alan. You have some of the you have your applications, and I have mine with these. But
well, the biggest use for them is of getting the edge of your door out of the way.
right, yeah, because like especially for people that have mobility issues, maybe you have a wheelchair in the house, and we've seen that
or
where
a walker.
you're
Yes.
coming through, especially some of these. I mean, we have doors that are 24 inches wide or
Right.
something, and technically, when you have an opening, unless that door has full range where it can open like 180 degrees, usually the edge of the door is sticking in, a good inch and a half or 2
Right.
inches.
So instead of a 32-inch doorway, you now have about a 29-inch.
Right.
Right.
And it, sometimes you need every bit of space you can get. And so this swing clear hinge, it gets the door out of the way. It opens in a wider arc, you could say. And but then it closes normally, which is cool. But sometimes people have cabinets like in a pantry, for example, where they might have like those pull-out
Right.
drawers and things. And by adding these, you can add width to the drawers that you can put in, and you can make it open.
Exactly.
But Alan, you said, and so basically, it's just a way to make doors open with a wider arc. But you pointed out something that it didn't occur to me with these.
Well, I've been involved in a couple of odd renovation projects with buildings basically from the nuclear age. And they had hidden rooms or safe rooms.
Sure, a lot of people
And-
are still doing those.
A lot of people still do these. And this allowed you to create a door that could be less obvious.
Right.
So, because it would close completely snugly, and therefore you could have a release somewhere else, and this door would pop open. So, in security doors, and I'm going to put in also in incarceration applications,
Yeah.
where you need a door that can swing completely open and come back completely closed. And
didn't
it's
think
a
of that
big,
one.
you get some of these 4-inch babies, and these are some big, heavy duty hinges.
Well, these are hardcore. Yeah, this is a 3.5 inch, but it can handle a lot of weight. This could be used for like steel doors and
Exactly.
right. But because like some of these hidden rooms, the idea is to make it look hidden. Like you might have a
Right.
set of bookcases, and that one bookcase over there on the left is actually a hidden panel that
It
you
is.
push back. And if the arch of the door doesn't swing right, it's going to get jammed up as it opens and
Or
closes.
it
So-
scuffs, or
Right.
it touches. And in this case, one of the ones I worked on, they had done a decorative pattern and molding down this long wall.
Yep.
And the last one on the left, the center of that wasn't wall. It was the door.
Right.
And there was a little release, and you clicked it, and you could literally walk through the wall into another part of the building.
I would have to imagine that Bruce Wayne has several of these swing
Yes.
clear hinges going into the Bat Cave from behind his
Yes, easily.
bookcase. So okay, but anyway, they're real handy. They're not probably everybody. It's not something everybody's going to use, but when you need them, you need them. They're
As I like to say, when you look at this and when you think it through, or you watch like a video of how they work, if you've never seen one work, this is one of those things where somebody like you and I had a problem and stayed up really late one night going, there's got to be a way to do this.
and it's funny too because once you put one on, it seems like the best answer is always something simple. This is simplicity at its best. Once you put it on, it's amazing how well these work.
Oh, yeah.
Now, occasionally you'll have to carve out more from the door because these are usually pretty thick. So you have to,
Right.
you might have to chisel the opening or the hinge seat a little bit more. So, but anyway,
They will buy you that extra. Or anybody that's ever had to move a lot of furniture and had to take a door off the hinge
oh yeah,
to move something into the house, trust me, you truly would appreciate this very tiny little change that gets a door out of the way.
there you go. So, all right. So that's our must-have item of the week. So now, Max, we only have time to set this up before we go to break. But this is interesting. This is a holiday offering of yours, right? So-
World Food Day.
No, I thought this was okay. Well, yeah, let's do
that. I figured
let's do
that
Food
first.
Safety Day before we get to your critter war. So.
Well, the reason I wanted to ask Allan is because, well, I recently had an encounter with possible food safety, and that's because, well, this is more of a food science question, but it could lead to food safety too. Well, I had an avocado in the fridge in this airtight container, and then when I opened it, it had like white mold growing in it. And so I was wondering, the science question for me was, how does mold grow in an environment when it's insulated?
It was already there.
It was already there?
It was already there. All right. Here's the...
Somebody missed something at the...
Well, no, here's the terrible, terrible thing. Nothing is sanitary.
Okay.
All right. So let's just start with where this food come from, outdoors. And we'll get into more of that in just a minute.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Is there anywhere in this town where we could buy a shrubbery?
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I mean, that's the first thing Allan asks anywhere he goes. So, and we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, if you're just waking up, you should know that today is Food Safety Day.
World Food Safety Day.
And on that note, Max had questions for Allan, and Allan was only too happy to answer these. But these are, I mean, like we said, this is what changed civilization, among other things.
Well, these are the questions, and food storage and food delivery has shaped our modern life. Our home is designed, believe it or not, around food safety.
Well, so Max, what was your I think it had something to do with an avocado.
So I had an avocado half inside of a hermetic, like in an airtight container.
Right.
As far as I know, there wasn't like any moisture or whatever inside the container, but it's just sitting in the fridge and everything. And so I was wondering when I opened it up again, why there was a little bit of like white mold or fungus growing on the fruit, on the meat in the fruit of the avocado, because I wasn't entirely clear on the science of mold, especially when there is no contact with anything outside.
Well, that's what you thought.
That's what I thought.
That's what you thought. You were incorrect, young man. Of your avocado came pre-programmed for destruction.
I like that.
That's the new name for my band, too, by the way. That's pretty good.
All right, anything we can consume is already pre-programmed to destroy itself.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, it needs to break down and then...
Exactly. We're talking about just natural processes. So, my best example is you go out to the garden, you have a beautiful grapevine. These grapes are absolutely adorable, so you pick them, you wash them, you dry them, you have them perfectly ready to go into a container, airtight. So you wrap this baby up. A couple of months later, it's going to explode.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because there is already yeast living inside of those grapes, and the process is going to begin. So this is why so much of our homes today are designed around stoves, refrigerators, freezers, disposals, dishwashers. Your dishwasher, when we come to food safety, your dishwasher is not really about washing the dishes.
Okay, what is it about
the
sanitizing?
The dishwasher is about the removal of microbial life from your dishes. I know originally when it was developed, visually, it was all about cleaning the dishes. The side effect, because of the soaps that we use, you would never use a soap that you put in the dishwasher in the sink.
Okay,
it
so
would
it's
just
doing
eat your
other
hands
things.
up. It would eat your hands up. It is a much stronger soap, and it is now much more designed around killing microbial life.
So it's pest control.
It is exactly that. It is exactly that. And when we get into pest control of a lot of how we store food today, where we store it, why we store it, the temperatures we store it at. And if everybody's going, well, what does this got to do with tools? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the stuff that designed how we live. And if you don't pay attention to this, think about eating out.
Oh, yeah.
Because every place you buy food of anything, and everybody somewhere is going to eat something today. So you are being directly, not even indirectly, you are being directly impacted by food science, illness reduction, and safety. Every single day, every single thing you touch, every single thing you eat or drink.
Well, go ahead.
Somebody had to think this stuff through.
Well, Allan, what this is making me think of is the idea of some of the problems that we have in this world are being due to being overly sanitized. You were mentioning something off the air about like the influx of particular monks and how we were slowly killing them.
Well, and there's a fine balance between sanitary and too sanitary. Your body needs a certain level of outside substances and influences to build up resistances to things.
Like a gut microbiome.
Exactly. So this is why different food requirements vary from culture to culture, people to people, and specifically, I'll look at you specifically, Max, and go, you're a special needs dietary person. You honestly, goodnessly cannot eat certain things. Plain and simple. Whether it's a food allergy or a genetic condition, some people can do certain stuff. Some people can't. And these are really important ideas. And also, if you're not exposed to certain things, people with peanut allergies.
Yeah.
Maybe they were overexposed as a child, or maybe they were underexposed. So there's a huge balancing act here as to what we do. But the thing is, we all know that our food has to be kept safe.
Roger.
And it's only got a life expectancy of so far.
Yeah.
Even in a freezer. So, yeah, welcome to food safety. And it's a huge topic for me because of people have crazy ideas. I have a dear friend who lives for expiration dates.
Oh, yeah.
She is the expiration date cop. The last person you want looking through your fridge, because if it expired yesterday,
Right.
she is going to point it out that you're going to die. And the fact is, you're not. These are all estimated figures and that. But common sense, look, smell, taste, texture, these things tell you whether or not something is good and fresh and edible.
Yeah. All right. There we go. So, all right. Well, hey, okay. So Food Safety Day is on the table.
Big time.
Let's shift gears, Max. I've been really eager to hear about your, well, I don't know if this is a Critter Wars or...
That's the most
It's Critters
foul,
at
cruel, and bad-tempered rodent you ever set eyes on.
I just wanted a hug.
Oh, rats in the kitchen, just like that delightful movie I taped in the theater.
So you said this has to do, this is in honor of D-Day.
Yes, and just a shout out, I was subbing on The Nation at Jake yesterday for one of our producers, Josh, and I was bringing up the idea of the unsung heroes of D-Day, and it just so happened that the non-human heroes of D-Day really attracted the audience.
Yeah. Non-human heroes. I mean, that's cool. So what do we got?
So let's first talk about Bing. Bing was a crossbreed between a German Shepherd and a Collie, and this was an airborne canine. Old Bing, he was trained to parachute in with the troops to detect mine and scouted enemy positions. It actually, if he looks like a German Shepherd and he's like in German territory, it might actually be sort of good for him. So he actually had an interesting story where the way that they incentivized him to jump out of the planes is they first had to throw a piece of meat out the door.
Did he catch it?
I'm not sure if he caught it, but I do know that he did land in a tree and got injured.
Oh, okay.
But-
yeah, because he doesn't know how to steer or navigate down.
But after that, after he got into veterinary recovery like a vet medic, he was able to get back into action, helping with his usual duties.
So he was sniffing out landmines, and I'm imagining he could find if there was casualties, right? He could track them down. And
Exactly. And his bravery actually earned him the animal equivalent of the Victoria Cross, which is called the Dickin Medal.
He's a cool dog. We posted a picture of him on the Facebook page sort of in action. His parachute is deployed
In training.
So, all right, excellent. So Bing the dog is one hero.
And then we got Gustav the carrier pigeon.
I knew Gustav was in here.
Because Gustav was pretty important to the whole mission, because during D-Day, they were under complete radio silence for very obvious reasons. And so Gustav was one of several of a fleet of carrier pigeons that were involved in Operation Overlord. So he was the first being to communicate that, hey, the landings were successful. And so he wanted to relay that back to his boss or his handler back in the UK.
Because carrier pigeons are for one thing, they're real loyal, right, Max? And they are great. They have excellent navigation skills.
Exactly.
They can find one location and go to another and everything. And I have to wonder if some of these carrier pigeons, if people took shots at them, because
yes.
If you were a German soldier, we're using carrier pigeons against you, and so. I don't know, man, but
more than
cool.
one did not make it back.
The non-human heroes of D-Day. Very good, Max. So those are on the table if you have comments about that as well. So, all right, well, I believe Jay Hill is at the door, Alan. So when we come back, we're going to go visit with our good buddy Jay Hill.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Gonna paint your wagon, gonna paint it fine. Gonna use oil-based paint, cause the wood is pine.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. All right, let's see what we got here, Jay. You know, Max is still trying to find the right music for you, and you're not feeling it.
I appreciate the effort there. My only fear there, Max, is that, the folks that are my age, fixing to start getting on the Social Security next month.
Yeah.
That's not going to appeal to them.
What's this little tune called, Max?
Give me your violence.
Yeah.
I think he chooses these based on the song title.
See if you can find somewhere, Max. Give me all your exterior jobs.
There you go.
That
Yeah, find it. Okay. Anyway, well, we're still on the hunt for the proper walk-up music, Jay. But
I appreciate the effort.
It's good to have you in the house,
Thank
Jay.
you, man.
How are your sinuses these days?
Man, tough. I tell you, we were in Myrtle Beach. Got back last Sunday. And something happened up there that I've not experienced before. Probably sneezed 5,000 times, and obviously a slight exaggeration, but it was just unbelievable. And it went on, and I got home, kind of moved down in my chest. I think this stagnant, heated air and humidity and all that, just kind of conducive for those things. And I sure wish it'd go away.
We were just talking about food safety, Alan. It sounds like he's kind of dealing with what Max's avocado.
He sounds like he's
was
about to
dealing
be
with.
Mid-South patient zero.
Yeah, there we go. So, no. Well, you don't look bad. I mean, it looks like you're still functioning on all cylinders. So
I wouldn't say that, but I am functioning. The show must go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Jay, before we start diving into what you've got going on, Max, you said we have a text, and we always put those at the front of the line. So what's on the text line? So.
Of course, our recent discussion about critters at war activates Agent 732.
Oh, what did he have to say? So
for a short period of time, they used pigeons to guide missiles. 3 pigeons were placed in the head of the missile and were each shown a picture of the target they were trained on. When they pecked at the picture, it would make adjustments in their trajectory until it hit the target. It was effective, but not cost-effective for the time investment needed to train the birds.
If I was on a game show and they said, get this right and you'll win $10 million, I wouldn't have won any money right there.
Okay, so I know we can't make this, pigeon talk radio, but Alan, I don't even understand what Agent 732 is talking about. And did the pigeons walk away from this?
They
No,
couldn't.
nobody walked away
How
from
could they
this.
walk away? All right, they're attached to
Well,
a bomb.
basically,
I don't get
what we're
this.
looking at here is the optical illusion best exemplified by the genius chicken fad of the 40s and 50s at the local carnival, where the chicken would walk out and their natural tendency to like want to scratch things.
Yeah.
Well, they would have like little pictures of corn printed on top of little piano keys. And the chicken would walk out and see that and naturally want to get to the corn. So he would start boogieing around and scratching, and it would look like the chicken was dancing and playing the piano.
Okay.
Or we would have the genius chicken playing chess, and you'd put your quarter in the machine, and the little chessboard would come up, and you'd punch a button to make a move. Well, the machine was always programmed for the chicken to win, and it would just put a dot where it wanted the chicken to peck, and the chicken would peck it, and you would lose because you were basically playing the machine, but it was an optical illusion.
Okay, but a missile, I mean, okay, did
Well,
they put a glass opening?
You have a window,
Yeah.
and you have a little picture. He's been trained to peck in the middle of this picture.
Okay.
So as the missile approaches the target appears in the window. Well, he's pecking at it, and they have sensors saying adjust, 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 and aim towards where he's pecking.
Now, how about the G's on the pigeon and everything? Does that affect its ability to calculate?
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Well,
Yeah.
they're a lot
pretty
smaller
fast.
than us, so they're not affected quite as
At the
badly as
very
we
least,
are.
the worst case of pigeon PSTD.
Yeah, yeah,
Of.
but, you know,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm picturing them with their pilot's goggles and a scarf on.
I'm just
and,
thinking of like the war vet pigeon, like it's PPTSD, pigeon PTSD.
Yeah.
Well, I
Poor
prefer
guys.
if you really want a show about pigeons, go watch The Biggest Bird Brain of Britain,
Yeah.
in which they set up intelligence tests for different kinds of birds all over Great Britain, and they set up some very complicated how to get the peanut or how to get the sunflower seed. You know, they had to pull levers and turn dials and stuff like that to get fed.
Yeah.
And a pigeon at the end of that show was performing over 10 different tasks in specific order to get the bird food.
Wow. Okay.
And so to show you how ingenious a critter can get, so you're wondering how that raccoon got in your attic? I know how he got in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Well, Jay, one of the things I appreciate about Big M Roofing and Remodeling is that no animals are ever harmed in the performing of your duties, right? I mean, for the most part.
Yeah, I think, especially doing roofs and stuff.
There's a wasp or two that might
It's so
bite the
loud.
dust.
We kind of run off anything that thought that they were just like overnight camping or anything, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and so, but anyway. Hey, so what, gosh, it's been a few weeks, well, it's been about a month or so since you've been in, and you're always up to interesting things, but I guess I'm wondering, we have had a lot of rain. We had a few storms where there was a lot of wind, and I guess I'm wondering what your life looks like right now. So
Busy. Took that vacation. It was a good week to take vacation because, as y'all remember, the week before last it just rained every day here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that was a good week for me to be gone. And came back stacked, which was great.
So when you
Yeah.
got back, you paid for that vacation.
Yeah, well,
didn't you?
it was good though. I wanted to come back and ready to go, because you're so frustrated that it's over with and it rains your whole vacation, and let's just get busy. That'll take care of all your worries. So came into a lot. Matter of fact, the first project that we did last Monday was for the ever popular Mr. Tim Van Horn.
I was going to ask you because
Yeah.
Tim told me, and actually he asked us about he needed your phone number. And he said, "Yeah,
And he
my
still
roof's
called
ready."
me.
So yeah,
And he still calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've worked about everybody in the state at Cumulus so far. I mean, Allan and I have brand new Big M roofs.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'll be leaving the sponsorship of this show next month and starting with the new company with people that I've never sold anything yet.
Yeah.
So
There you go. So, but okay. Anyway, well, Jay,
it's a joke.
Yeah, I heard you. So, well, Jay, but
Watching the color drain out of Joe's
Man, I
face was
saw
worth
it.
it.
You
I
okay,
don't-
Joe? You okay?
I didn't believe him. Jay, I know too much about what happens.
Yeah, we got too many referrals for you there, bud.
Yeah,
Yeah. Can't
exactly.
go anywhere. You got me right where you want me.
Now, what is Tim's project? What's he got going on?
Well, it was time for a roof, and based, I guess, on y'all's recommendation. Of course, I listened to Tim all the time. I'd never met him in person, and he called out of the blue and asked me just to come take a look. And unfortunately, wasn't any storm damage that we could go after insurance on this one, but definitely time to replace the roof. And after him and his lovely wife Leslie discussed it, and I did what I always do, just full transparency, kind of all the credentials, all those things, and kind of walked him through the whole thing. I think they got several more quotes, and I was blessed enough to got in the business, and we got it done Monday and Tuesday, and they're just a delight, man, really a delight. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
You're right about that. Tim's one of those guys. Allan, sometimes we wonder what are people like when they're not on the air or something. He's no different. I mean, he's just a good dude. So
Yeah. His whole family's just delightful.
Yep.
Well, that brings up a topic. What is the most common thread you see in Mid-South roofs?
Common thread.
Is it just age, storm damage, critter damage? I mean, is there a thread, or are we just kind of all over the map?
Yeah, I mean, you really couldn't say there's one thing. You could potentially say that's a combination of two, and that would be age and storm damage.
Okay.
And when you have both of those, that's then you're cooking with gas. Then we potentially have a way to go with insurance. Now, Tim's roof was old, but there just wasn't any damage at all.
Okay, well, all right. What's the just to refresh everybody's memory here? What is a big indicator that your roof has aged?
Well, his was a classic example. There's a phenomena called crystallization or cupping, and when you look at a roof, I have to back up and tell you that a shingle is an asphalt mat that's reinforced with fiberglass with granules that are embedded in it, and then protective coating over the top of it. That's the basics of it, okay? When a roof really starts to wear and tear, especially around year 18, 19, 20, it looks like, if you look up at the roof, it looks like there are light borders around every tooth of the shingle. It almost shines. It's silver. Mm-hmm. It's silver, in other words. And what you're actually seeing there is the fiberglass. So when it gets to the fiberglass, it's history. They got a lot of life.
Time.
They got a lot of life out of this roof. This roof was 30 years old.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. And the new one's just like, it looks like they got a new house. And they've got a beautiful home. And I know they're proud. We were proud to be of service.
He was talking about the ridge cap, and I told him, I said, man, you're going to notice that. And I said, start checking your utility bill, because I told you, our utility bill went down as soon as you put in our new
they're
roof
game
with the
changers
ridge
for
cap.
sure, the ridge fence, yeah.
All right, cool. All right, well, we're going to continue to visit with our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling when we come back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Hi there. Is there a project you're working on? I know more than you. All right.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
No, that was not me.
Let's be rude about it. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. I mean, I've thought that at the store, Allan, but I've never said it out loud. I mean, let's not be jerks about it.
Yeah.
Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. And we should say, Jay, we didn't give out, people are probably, they're gripping their phone ready to contact you. Please don't contact Jay till we get him off the air. But if you do want to get in touch with Jay, call 901-484-5645. That is a direct hotline to Jay Hill,
That's it.
You encourage people to do that, or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com if you want to check out all their projects. So, Max, I know you're just eager. Later in the show, we'll talk a little bit more about your pigeons, but let's stay on task here because you've been researching more about pigeons at war.
No, it's not necessarily that. It's just because of the fact that Agent 732 and I wanted to follow up on that. That's all.
Okay, well, put a pin in it. We will get to that later. But Jay, while we have you in the house, let's stay focused here. But yeah, so you were talking about something off the air that I thought was really important about one of your customers that, man, unfortunately, I wish she'd have called you first, but
Yeah, in any line of work, I'm sure from time to time you're going to run into stuff that just, man, you just feel bad for folks. This is a widow lady, and so nice. Referral from a customer of mine who is a plumber. She had called him, said, man, there's water. Something's broke up there. And he said, no, there's nothing broke up here. Your roof. Of course, he called me, just got him done with one of the Big Ten insurance companies, so which he was excited about and proud of what we did. Anyway, I went out there, and you got to sit down and go through that whole thing of what's going on. And ultimately what had happened is this. She had a 20-year-old roof or so, and it was a 3-tab roof. So, the 3-tab roofs, obviously the profile is flat. The newer shingles, the architectural, have a 3-dimensional look to them. They're sometimes called laminates because there's a little laminate tooth, as we call it, that's laminated on them that kind of makes it emulate the old wood shake roofs of old.
They look really good. They look so much better than a 3-tab.
They do. Of course.
And they block water better, too, right?
Well, they do. They're 30-40%, depending on the manufacturer, heavier. Obviously much better constructed. The technology between the advent of the 3-tab shingle and this shingle are like, riding a horse or driving a car. I mean, it's just that much more. But having said all that, had a 3-tab roof. She was leaking water already in a couple of different places on the inside. She called a contractor, don't know who it was. They suggested that, hey, she could save some money, just could do a layover. And they did that.
A layover is putting new shingles over the old shingles, which
that's correct.
I'm not a big fan, Jay.
I'm not a fan either.
Yeah.
But it is, code eligible, we'll call it. You can't have 2 roofs by code in Shelby County. I've seen as many as 7. If you can imagine that. That wasn't pretty.
Gosh, what did that weigh? Holy smokes.
I can imagine. It was a crossover from Melrose High School, and you could see between the rafters.
Oh, I bet you could.
Yeah. In other words, we did the math. Based on when the house was built, every roof that had ever been put on the house was on it.
They never took it off.
No, not one. Wow. Not one.
How are the nails long? Okay, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
So you're taking a damaged roof
6
and you're
inches.
covering it up.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. And that's perfectly acceptable in a lot of applications, okay? Now, when all the 3-tab roofs are gone and they've been replaced or laid over, that application will be over with because you can't lay over an architectural roof because it's got that 3-dimensional profile. If you try to do it, I've seen people do it and try to do it. There's a few in town, and you'll know it when you see them. It's the most god-awful thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It just looks like a bunch of bumps. But anyway, that'll be all over with. But the only way that you can do a layover, and the only way it would make sense, other than the cost savings, is if water's not intruding the home anywhere. There were 3 or 4 places, as I said, that water was coming in. So 7 years ago, a layover was done with an architectural shingle. From the outside, this shingle still looks okay.
Sure.
From the inside, not so much. Water is literally pouring in all kinds of areas. And I'm not sure how we're going to be able to navigate this through insurance. All I know is I'm going to try. So we've got a claim started. We're going to get together on Tuesday, and I'm going to try to put my magic on this adjuster and try to give him all the reasons why he should say yes instead of why he should say no. There will be some relief there somehow, some way, because it is coming in from the top. It's not rising water, so it's not any kind of a flood claim by any stretch of the imagination. But there's not any noticeable wind damage.
Okay, because that's a big factor.
That was underneath the layover.
So they covered
of course it is.
Yeah,
of course it is.
So you'd have to pull that off to show the wind. Okay.
No, it won't be there anymore. It'll be probably already creased back down. I mean, there's just nothing I can show. The prevalent roof is the one that's showing, and that's the architectural roof. So, yeah, we probably obviously would have had a way to go had we got a claim started back when it was just a 3-tab roof. But rather than to do that, they talked this lady into this layover, and it covered up all the damage. And so it's a real conundrum.
Some people may be thinking, Jay, like, okay, well, if you've got a brand new shiny, architectural shingle, why wouldn't that fix it? But to me, I'm thinking it's almost like the difference between nailing, attaching a shingle to a nice solid piece of plywood versus attaching it to like a trampoline or something. Or it's as soon as there's flexibility or as soon as there's something compromising there, the shingle can't work because it's going to flex and then water is going to find its way in.
Yeah, and 50% of the time that water's coming in around a boot jack pipe, somewhere like that, or where old ridge vents were, because most of the time on a layover, that contractor is just trying to make money and get out typically. Typically, not all, but typically. So those boot jacks make it about 20, 25 years tops. They have a neoprene collar. For the listener who's not sure what I'm talking about,
explain.
I'm talking about any penetration coming out of your roof. It'd be things like exhaust vents for bathrooms, exhaust vents for a vent-a-hood for a kitchen, obviously your plumbing, your HVAC. Those are the 2 or 3 or 4 big pipes that you see coming out the top. All of those have collars around them that are that are intertwined with the roofing system, and if they're not addressed on a regular basis, changed out when you change the roof out, things like that, they will leak, and that happens more times than not.
Sure, and then plus the leak, it might start there, but it comes through the ceiling like 20 feet later, and so it's hard to always detect. So.
Yeah, traveling down like one of those log rides at Disney World, just.
Well, and you mentioned something, Jay, because for people that are new to Tool Talk Radio, they should know one of the things that's really just one of your specialties is you're a former insurance agent, so you're really good at helping people navigate if they have a homeowner's claim, right? And that's what you're doing with this lady. So.
Yeah, I sure do. I mean, that's how I kind of cut my teeth and got into this business, kind of knew both sides of it. And although insurance companies have gotten more difficult to work with over the last 5 or 6 years, with the right, information and the right contractor, you can still be successful. I feel sorry, though, for anybody that tries to navigate that by themselves.
I wouldn't suggest
Joe or
it.
Cindy homeowner. I mean, they'll just run all over you.
If you need to get in touch with Jay, call him after the show, but get in touch with him at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. Well, Jay's going to be sticking around, so if you've got any roofing or remodeling questions, get in touch with us. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, a man who has no respect for the radio time clock and just enters into long conversations as we're coming back on air, Jay.
Somewhere between no respect and way too much respect. That's where I'm trying to be. I mean, I think I'm on the right side of that.
All right. Our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. One day we are going to just put cameras in here and leave them on, Allan. And
the best stuff happens off camera.
Jay gets into these big, long-winded, things, and I'm like, Jay, we're going on the air in 5 seconds, and so.
But it's not 5 seconds, Joe. It's 2 minutes or a minute and a half. I mean, we still have time.
Live radio.
Jay and I just roll our eyes to each other, and
anyway.
we know.
Okay,
we know. It's all right.
Hey, but Jay, in all seriousness, we love Jay Hill, and part of the reason. Okay, so Jay, before the break, we were talking about a situation with one of your customers. You're trying to work with her. Unfortunately, she had only 7 years ago had somebody come in. I don't know who the company was. We don't know, what their deal was. But basically they put on an architectural roof over her roof that was already very damaged. It was old and damaged and leaked. And you were talking about possibly an insurance solution. And anyway, the thing is, you may not be able to fully replace the roof, but you may have a solution for that's more keeping in her budget, I guess, is what.
Yeah, at the end of the day, what I try to tell folks, what we're really going to do is get that adjuster out there. We need relief. We need help. We need all we can possibly get.
Right.
Let's get them out there. Maybe we'll get them to buy that whole roof. If we don't, maybe we'll get $8,000 or $10,000. Then maybe if that's the way it works out, we can replace those slopes that are really affected. Wasn't 100% successful, for instance, maybe in getting the whole thing done. But, this was found money. It's what you pay your premiums for. So, hopefully we can at least get where the water's coming in took care of and get your homeowners to take care of it for you. Well, I always shoot for the moon, though, every time.
Yeah, but, you got to be – okay, we have to have a roof on our house. We have to have our roof working properly. And so – and not everybody has the budget. So I like that at least you're a dynamic problem solver because you have to – you're going to do what you can for somebody. So.
I'm going to try. I'm absolutely going to try.
Yeah, because anyway, we've seen other business models. Let's just put it that way. You know, where they're gonna strictly come in and all they want to do is replace everything, and that's the only projects they're interested in. So
right.
Well, right around the corner from a little job site I'm working on right now is a complete flip and strip, aka the person had been there for a number of decades and is now the home has been sold, and there have probably been 8 crews out there cutting trees back, cleaning the backyard, hauling the stuff out of the house. And one of the very first things I noticed was a lot of the younger crew members were pointing and were talking to each other, and they were looking at whirlybirds. And obviously
those vents,
well, obviously they have been working around new roofs for a while, and they were pointing out to the new younger members how terrible. Yeah, I was kind of listening to the conversation. I was cracking up because, Jay, I am an unabashed, massive fan of the ridge vent because that solved so many problems.
Yeah.
Because the whirlybirds, those were the spinning things they leak, right, Jay?
Well, you could have issues, I guess, with anything. I guess it's that horse and buggy versus driving a car technology. It's not even close. At one point in time, the whirlybird was the end of the line. That was as good as you could do for attic ventilation. Certainly was better than obviously having nothing. I guess ultimately the issue with those is that typically the standard size turbine will, it'll dissipate somewhere between 300 and 400 square foot of air, hot air, let's say, then out of the attic. If the wind's blowing and the whirlybird's not old, since it's galvanized steel, stoved up, ain't working, jammed up, blah, 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 they're ineffective based on the newest revelation that Allan's alluding to, and that is the ridge vents, and they're just real game changers. So if you think about a roof, a typical 5-pitch, 6-pitch roof in a 1,500 square foot house could literally have 1,200, 1,300 square foot of attic space there. So you got a whirlybird back there that'll take on 300-400 square foot of hot air, and it's on one side of the house, for instance, on the back.
Right.
The whole rest of it's just hot as hell. And these houses may or may not have gable vents, which are little consolation. But, before whirlybirds, that's all there was. A couple of gable vents on either side on straight gable houses. So the ridge vents are ingenious because they literally work just like opening your back door on a nice spring morning and then opening a front window at the front of your house. and letting that breeze just come through, just pulls.
Oh yeah.
You can smell your mother's sheets, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. Because what happens with the ridge vents is that air comes through your soffit vents and then discharges out the ridge vents. But with ridge vents, the whole attic is vented.
Right.
So if you've got a gable home, we stop 6 inches from each end of the gable end. So we're basically cutting 1.5 inches off of each side of your ridge and running it from one ridge to the other, installing the ridge vents, putting the ridge cap shingles on top of it. But bugs can't get in there. Water, moisture can't get in there. And I get asked that a lot by especially the ladies. Well, can critters get in there? Because they're already having critter problems. That's why. Is that we're not going to give them a bigger place to get in.
Right.
I've literally had a guy, I'll make this real quick, I swear. Had a guy, a lady called me. She said, "You need to get out here now." I had a guy up looking in my attic, and he said, "Y'all got a big hole all the way down my dadgum attic ceiling."
He didn't realize it's supposed to be there. So,
yeah, because from the inside, if you're looking up and you can see, you'll see that 1.5 inch gap.
Yep.
Well, you see
that's on
sunlight.
each side. You see sunlight.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the ridge vent is on the top, and it goes up and over that.
It's like an umbrella.
I like to never convince her what it was. I said, I'll come out there and I'll show it to you. And finally, her husband, and unfortunately, they were divorced, and he caught wind of it. He called and said, "Don't you pay her no mind. You got to go ahead. I'll handle this."
Well, hey, Jay, I'll tell you, and it's not, I mean, I told you, as soon as we got the new roof with the ridge cap, our utility bill went down, like, especially in the summer. I mean, because the house is running cool now.
You know what's funny? And see if y'all can think of any things where we've been told that before, that if we did this, did that, I don't know if it's some kind of Energy Star win or something like that. I never saw those savings. People tell me all the time. I see it in my own home. Ridge vents will save you money on your utility bills. It really does. And it makes sense. You don't have 120-degree ambient hot air sitting up above your ceiling right there with nowhere to go. I mean, it literally is proven to take 25 to 30 degrees of hot air out of those attics at all times.
Plus, they look cool. I like the way they look. They kind of give you it sort of adds an interesting line to your roof.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, ridge vents are a big deal. All part of, by the way, the roofing system, which we talk about so many times. It's just one of the components that we use with GAF as a GAF Master Elite installer that go to make this roofing system one that you'll never have to worry about. I'll get a call a week about a roof that potentially I laid at some juncture over the last 10 or 15 years. This is happening, that's happening. I get out there. It's never the roof.
Yeah.
It's never the roof. 1 out of 50 times, somebody might have experienced a little wind damage, which, is obviously a homeowner's claim, if you will. But
right.
I even try to help them out. You build this roof the way we sell it, and I'm telling you, it's so affordable, it's mind-blowing. I mean, it may cost you $800,000 tops to really get the top-end roof that you'll get a lifetime transferable, non-prorated warranty on. It's a game changer. It'll last, and you just don't have any trouble out of them.
Well, if you need to get in touch with Jay, get in touch at 901-484-5645. Don't do it till he's off the air, or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. It's already tough enough keeping him, focused on the clock here. So, but we don't need phone calls in the middle.
You're doing that now. You got me on the clock.
You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Good news, everyone! I'm in terrible pain.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good pal Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. It's a great day to get in touch with Jay. Well, you can call him here at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. Call or text, or call him directly at 901-484-5645. Just please do it after the show's over. We don't want Jay to, be further distracted. I don't know what you're doing now, Jay. He's taking selfies as we're on the air. Jay, I had questions for you, but if you're otherwise occupied.
I have the ability to listen and, multitask.
Okay, good for you. Well, hey, Jay, you said you want to give some shout outs, so
I do.
By all means.
I do. The show's been extremely good to me, and I'm amazed at how many phone calls I get. And as I think y'all know, I always ask customer, how did you hear about me? Mm-hmm. And it's either a referral or they listen to the show.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And,
there you go, sponsors and advertisers.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's been incredible. So just last week, as soon as I got in, I got 3 phone calls, all who were friends of the show. Is that how we say it, friends of the show?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, if you've been around in showbiz, it's friends of the show.
Right.
And 2 of them, which we've already consummated deals on. So want to give a special shout out this morning to Jay Brock up in Atoka. Going to be starting on him sometime next week, doing some painting. Got some, this is kind of cool. If you've ever seen this, he's got a newer home, but the caulk on all the sills of the windows, it's dry rotted and gone already after the house being just 6 or 7 years old. So we're going to be digging all that out after we paint and getting those recalked for him. So that's just an exterior job that's not a roof, again, from the show. So great family up there. Look forward to getting started there. And then Monday, weather permitting, and it doesn't look like it's going to permit, great big roof down in Olive Branch to Sean McCauley and his family. Sean just gave us a call and said, hey, I'm not sure what's going on. I know that at my shop, and I've got to show you all this stuff. This guy makes these toys out of wood. He's got a big, 2,000 square foot shop.
Ooh, nice.
Mind blowing, down to the detail of the lumber on the truck, on the semis.
Yeah.
This stuff is really, really, really cool. Anyway, this water's coming in his shop. It's got very expensive equipment back there and stuff. And didn't unfortunately have any storm damage. He's already done a couple of repairs that just hadn't panned out. And he just got with the wife, and they said, let's just do it. Let's just get it done. So Sean and Jay both, thanks for the opportunities. Look forward to getting started with you next week.
Another listeners of the show. Yeah. Well, I mean, Allan, we're a couple of, I don't know, goofs, but hey, we, I'm glad that Tool Talk is serving a good purpose out in the community. So,
and speaking of friends of the show, we actually have a roof-related, not necessarily a question, but just a comment from one of our friends of the show by the name of Norman Rockwell.
Oh yeah.
He said, we just built our forever home back during COVID, and we designed our house with a ridge that runs the full length of the house to the ridge vent. It's the whole length of the house. Our heating and cooling, 1,850 square feet, and our electricity bill in the summer has never been over $200.
Isn't that something? So they probably have all the right insulation and a ridge cap. They're right though, Jay, man. I mean, it was noticeable immediately for me when we got our ridge cap.
I was thinking about an analogy that you could share with somebody that really maybe didn't have the whole concept down even after somewhat of an explanation, which is still plausible that it could be that way. But think about it like, so you're in your house and you've got the air conditioning on and you get one utility bill, and you've got the air conditioning on and the heater on, and you're trying to keep it cool. Yeah. Which bill's higher? It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Because just above your head, in June, July, August, September in this town, it's stifling in these attics.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you'll melt in 2 minutes. So you go up after the ridge vents have gone on.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you walk through there, and I mean, you can do what you need to do. It's wild.
And actually, Alan, I got a science question because, we know hot air goes up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to imagine if you have soffits that have vents, which I hope you do, folks, that are properly breathing, and you have a ridge cap, well, you're creating a natural air movement, right? Like it's
Right. You're getting a chimney effect.
Yeah. What do you
Like
mean?
a
Like
Well, all right.
there's
so-
movement, in other words.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the whole idea is that of air motion is what we're really talking about in the attic because I cannot honestly it's kind of frightening in commercial facilities where they are absolutely infamous for doing even less than somebody did for your house. Trust me. You would get up near the ceiling in facilities where the next level above you is the roof. And the ceiling itself would be warm to the touch.
Yeah.
Because that is actually just radiant heat being pushed into your living space. And now you're trying to run air conditioners to cool that living space.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like leaving your stove on. Stoves are insulated, right? So you put your stove on 350, you bake some biscuits. That stove is still hot, and if you put your hand over the range, it is still radiating heat.
Especially gas stoves.
And it is a similar thing because not only does that heat radiate in the attic, but because of the way many buildings were actually built and insulated back in the day, that heat can radiate down your walls.
Sure.
And I always pity people with, certain types of construction because you are honestly living in a easy bake oven and you're trying to cool it.
Yeah. Think about this too, though, because I've been asked this so many times. So if I were to ask you, do you have to have soffit vents to have ridge vents? What would you say?
Probably don't, right? Because not every house has soffits or
That's
a place
correct.
to put 'em.
So could they still be effective?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would think so, right? Because there's plenty of air movement. So
Yeah, based on just the initial question of the heat rising. So I've heard people tell customers before that you can't have ridge vents if you don't have soffit vents.
No.
Not true. Not true. Not true at all. They're going to be a little bit more effective, obviously, with soffit vents because you get that draw Alan's talking about, just like a chimney. Flue. When you put that log in, that's what keeps that thing burning. That air coming through and coming out the top, same thing. But you create that opening in your ridge right there, that hot air is still going to rise, and you're going to get a lot of heat out of your attic.
the other thing is it's not just your utility bills, but it's heat is not good for your rafters. It's not good for anything you're storing in your attic. It's not, And please, folks, don't ever store paint up in your attic. If you want to just ruin a gallon of paint, just put it in your attic, and in a month it'll be trashed. So
gelatin ball.
Yeah,
terrible.
Yeah, they were talking last week on one of the shows. I guess it was Tim and Ditch were talking about. Y'all may have heard it. The things that you don't keep in your garage.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and paint being a big one, the pet food, things like that. But I've learned, and it took me a long time, why do people, even myself up until recently, think that we're just going to keep every partial paint dadgum can that we've got, and it's going to be okay whenever we want to use it?
No, the best place to store paint, if you got room, is in the house, in some cabinet, maybe in the laundry room, just something where it's room temperature. It'll last a while as long as it's sealed tight. But an attic or garage,
I know. I'm telling you.
I don't know.
I've learned the hard way. I'm not saying it won't last a while.
Yeah.
But even new paint unopened, I've seen bad after 5 or 6 years. And I'm going to speak about me. That's the only person I'm an expert about anyway.
There you go.
I bet we had 30 freaking different pints, quarts, gallons of olive paint. I mean, what the house color was 9 times ago. I mean, get rid of it.
I'll give you guys a declutter hint when we come back about that.
Okay.
Allan with the declutter hint.
Yeah, don't just dump a gallon of oil-based paint in your garbage can. We don't want to do that. So.
No, put it in there gently.
So Allan has a Tool Talk Radio PSA when we come back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Oh, I steal things all the time. It's just something I do. I stopped carrying a long time ago. You should see how many supplies I've taken from this place. Honestly, I love stealing things.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, who we're going to continue to visit with here. Before we get to that, and then, of course, Allan, you've got some, we teased it, and so we always try to be responsible hosts here. We're going to talk about the proper way to get rid of your house paint, because you don't just throw that in the garbage can. So before we get to any of that, though, let's talk about our good friends over at Groundworks. They are all about the protection of the foundation of your home, keeping it, Jay, we talk about keeping a healthy roof. They're down below. They want you to have a healthy foundation, and foundations really, they come in all shapes and sizes. You may have an older home that has a basement, or you may have a crawl space, or you may live on a slab, and no two foundations are the same. Even if you live on the same street and the houses were built at the same time, well, if you're at the top of the hill, somebody's at the bottom of the hill, you face different issues, or if you have trees. But foundation problems, for one thing, they never get better with age, so don't delay. You have to address, it's just one of those things. You have to address a roofing problem, and you have to address a foundation problem. And sometimes these problems manifest themselves in unusual ways. You might have a trail of ants that just congregates in some place. You may have bouncing floors, or you may have that weird kind of funky smell that lingers in this one particular area. Those could all be symptoms of an unhealthy foundation. What's great about Groundworks is the inspection is free, and this is a very comprehensive inspection. When you contact Groundworks, they're going to come out. They're going to bring their cameras. They're going to bring their their moisture detection equipment. It's kind of like going to the doctor, and then they're going to give you a readout of what they discovered by with their visit. And then you can, for one thing, maybe you'll get a clean bill of health. Maybe your foundation is in great shape, which is what you want to hear. And if not, they'll show you the issues and talk about solutions. And sometimes people think of foundation problems and immediately their mind thinks, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be expensive." Well, it's not always the case. Sometimes it's a simple solution, but like we said, it never gets better with age. So I think it's just behooves you as a homeowner to get in touch with Groundworks and schedule your free inspection. You can just simply go to groundworks.com and book your free inspection today. All right. Well, Allan, we got into the concept of paint disposal, and I feel like we better talk about it, because and depending on where people are listening, it's probably different where what community you live in. But
different states have different laws.
Yeah.
But we're talking about don't store things in the garage, don't do this, don't do that. The biggest thing is, as Jay says, we have a tendency to accumulate. And you walk
paint
out
is
there
easy to accumulate.
And you go, wow,
yeah.
I have got 10 years worth of cans I am never going to look at again. And the number one reason you saved it was the label.
Take a picture.
Exactly.
That's what I do.
Exactly.
Or take the label off and just stick that in a drawer.
Well,
yeah.
I better than a drawer, get yourself a cheap little notebook and just tape the paint label in it and write, where did you use this paint?
Right, yeah.
This was my soffit. This was my bathroom. This was and that way, a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, you can flip through this thing real quick and go, oh, yeah, that was the bathroom paint.
Right.
And there's the label, and there's the formula, and there might even be the UPC code that they just scan, and they have your paint color and history, and everything comes right up on the computer. So one, just record that information somewhere. 2, kitty litter may be your best friend.
Okay.
If you've just got a little bit of paint left in the can, we don't want paint everywhere, right? So you can mix in an equal amount of kitty litter to dry up the paint and make it a nice solid so that you can throw away a latex paint.
Right.
You can put that in your normal trash receptacle. If you've got oil paints, I'm going to say go hit your hardware store or your big box store, and they have paint solidifiers.
Ah, that's
and
right.
And it's just a little chemical you add to the paint can. It turns it into a solid. And there are also now all over the country paint and other hazardous material disposal areas.
That's what I was going to say is check, you can probably Google it. Just check
Yes.
if your city has that because that's handy. Jay, one time I went over, this was like 15 years ago, I went over to Shelby Farms. I brought them literally like 30 gallons of paint because that's where it was at that time.
Well,
So,
I was going to say on the other end of that you probably are one of the few solid paint citizens we have in this town. Nobody's going up to Home Depot and Lowe's and buying solidifiers. It's just not happening in this town.
You'd be surprised.
I would be extremely surprised.
You would be surprised. They sell
Show
quite a
me
bit
the
of it.
receipts. I mean, there'd be a few stand-up folks that would.
They have a nice selection, and it is
of
turned.
solidifiers.
Yes.
What does it matter what color a solidifier is?
It's
if you're
not
turning
the
it?
color. It's the blend. It's what kind of oil or latex or other blends that you have. And it's for different chemicals.
Right.
So believe it or not, there's actually a 10 years ago, I would have agreed with you. But 10 years of education, people have caught on.
Yeah,
and nobody wants to spill a can of insert here. Nobody wants to spill that 1 gallon can of paint at the end of the driveway or in the trash can. And for heaven's sake, people, please don't put it down. Anything that goes to a septic system or goes into a storm drain.
You would
Only
think
rain
you don't have to say that,
down
but
the storm drain.
you probably should.
Don't change your oil on your car and pour it down the storm drain because that goes straight out to a water source.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
That should go along with the flammable sticker that's at a gas pump, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
just some stuff you got to know.
There's some common sense things that so dispose of this stuff properly.
Well, I was going to say, but Alan, in fairness, there's probably people that, they're good citizens and they store these cans because they don't know what to do with them.
Exactly.
And so that's why, maybe they didn't know there was such a thing as paint solidifier.
There is, and it's in the paint section. There's a nice little category there. You can walk into any hardware store or your big box store, and they have got a selection for stains, oil base, and other stuff. And that way you can get rid of this stuff. And because the other thing, especially with your stains and oil based stuff, that stuff is actually flammable.
Well, good point. Yeah.
You don't
We don't
really
need
want to
explosions
keep
in the back
tons
of
of
the
little
garbage truck.
bombs in your garage. So
yeah,
buy it fresh. Don't buy too much of it. And it's one of these things where buying some for later really doesn't work because it ages. And I will throw in also for those of you who think, ooh, look, the joint compound's on sale. I'm going to buy 4 tubs of it. That stuff will mold and ferment and go bad.
Oh, yeah. You open it and you know that funky smell.
Buy fresh. Only buy what you need. And when you're done, you're done.
Joint compound is almost like a food thing to me.
It is pretty close because it can get pretty funky pretty fast.
So, Jay, though, you were earlier in the show, you were talking about one of your customers out, I guess, in Atoka, and you sort of triggered me. You didn't realize it. I kept my poker face, but you were talking about the fact that this house was built, like less than 10 years ago?
Yeah.
And all the caulk is failing, and you even showed us pictures off the air of where they painted, like, to me, it looks like they touched up and they used the wrong color paint. So you have this two-tone effect.
Yeah.
The caulk should not be failing. Like my first suspicion was whoever caulked it, maybe they didn't clean it properly, or maybe they put inferior caulk. And then I've even seen people where they put caulk on and 2 minutes later they're covering it with paint.
Yeah.
It never cures right. And that bugged me. Like, because
I think all this really speaks to a bigger a bigger idea, and the bigger idea is this as a general rule, that builders model anything, appliances, caulk, paint, carpet, vinyl, whatever you want to insert in there, is just not top quality stuff. It has the ability to look good. They're selling the sizzle, not the steak.
Yeah.
But typically, just like I tell everybody with roofs, your second roof, especially if I'm laying it, is 10 times the roof that you got when your house was new. So, yeah.
Well,
this fella's on top of his house and recognized it and jumping on it when a lot of people would have let this go a lot further. And really the real issue on the caulk is not so much all the way around the windows, is again on the sills. Mm-hmm. Sills are going to catch, obviously, the downpours, the rains and stuff. So he's just getting it before it's going to be a problem, and it's extremely wise.
Well, he's being proactive. But the thing about caulk and paint, Allan, the difference between really good caulk and just, cheap caulk is so minimal. It's like, spend the extra money on good caulk and make sure you buy the right kind. Don't buy, the caulk that's supposed to go next to your stove and put that on your soffits and buy good paint.
That is not the philosophy of most spec builders. It's that little bit more that they're going to shave off of every product that they buy as a general rule, not all of them. And it means a lot in the long haul to them.
Well, maybe that's a conversation you need to have when you're doing a remodel.
I agree.
With somebody like Jay Hill.
That's right.
Get in touch with Jay. You can call him directly at 901-484-5645. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Brought to you by Bargain Bob's Used Catapults. Tormenting your neighbors or exacting revenge on your enemies doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. If you're tired of paying high prices for your medieval weaponry, come to Bargain Bob's Used Catapults. From entry-level pumpkin launchers to trebuchets that will hurl a car engine, you'll find it all at Bargain Bob's Used Catapults.
And, well, Jay, you use yours to get the shingles up on the roof, right?
We actually do have something similar to that. Yeah, we've got a lift with a 5-horsepower Honda motor on it that'll actually take up about 75 pounds straight up a dadgum 24-foot ladder very quickly.
There you go. Oof. So all technology is on the table at Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
That's right.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. And off the air, Jay, you were reminding me of something. Being a contractor is an interesting job because for me, and Allan, you guys all know this. You're in and out of so many people's homes, and you get to know them. And you really, on the best case scenario, you almost become friends with these people by the end of the project.
Absolutely.
One of the things that's always interesting to me is like you pull up to a house. It just looks like your average neighborhood home, and then every so often you come across this homeowner where it's like, well, let me show you my workshop, or let me show you this storage area. And you go in there and it's like, this person has like every Star Wars action figure ever made, or this person is a master wood turner and maybe they make these custom pens or something. And that stuff, I happen to know, if you ever go to Jerry Lawler's house, he has a 2-car garage that's been converted into a geek museum. Mm-hmm. Allan, you've seen it. It's like
I have
literally
indeed.
every comic book, every whatever. But Jay, that's a cool feature of what we do, man.
Yeah.
You've encountered that, right?
Yeah, I have a customer out in Eads, and we'll obviously leave these folks nameless, unlike you did. You got on to me for doing that one day, remember?
I think everybody knows Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, but we were doing that drawing, and I said, our winner is Joe Smith.
Oh, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Smith Street, and you're going, stop, stop. You're going to get him hurt. But yeah, I've got a customer out in Eads, and I never thought it. Start walking through the house, huge house, opens up a door, and there is the hugest, biggest in-person collection of vintage musical instruments I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that would be
And
cool.
I'm into music, and I play guitar, and I just fell out. And we've obviously got that in common moving forward. I've done several more jobs out that way. And, yeah, it happens all the time. And when it does, it's really fun because, really at the end of the day, when you're doing business with folks, it all starts with seeing what that common chemistry is, if you can find it. And then everything flows from there. But I've learned more in this business like that, as you just mentioned, than you can possibly imagine.
Well, and plus it creates unique. Well, for one thing, the projects that you're going to do for those people aren't cookie cutter. Like Allan, I had a guy. He was. I mean, he was like your straight laced. He probably worked at a bank. He just looked like an average guy. You went into this one room, and he was one of those model train. Not I don't even know what you call them. The miniature train enthusiast. He was showing me these electric train engines. He's like, well, this one was about $2,000. This one was
yes.
Well, a person like that has special needs as far as like where they store them, what the wood's made out of, whatever. And those are fun projects to do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, never a dull day, really.
Yeah. So, but you told us that there's somebody out there you just met that we need to get him to the convention. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Met a young man, called me again, friend of the show. His dad actually is the friend of the show, I believe, and his dad asked him to handle it. And that is rain.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was coming. Said, hey, Colin, we've had some windstorms over the last 30 days. It's blown down their fence, blown off a bunch of soffit vinyl. Shutters are down the street somewhere. We hadn't found them yet. And they just asked me if we had an insurance claim. I said, I think we do. So looking forward to hearing back from them, hopefully by Monday or Tuesday, and getting them started. But, yeah, I started talking to him. One thing leads to another, and I'm mentioning the show that y'all do every year. And he is a full-fledged, first-class geek, lives it, loves it. And he was talking about things that were going right over my head, as I mentioned to you. But I kind of put y'all together. I said, listen, next show that comes around, I said, we're going to make sure we get you out there, man, let you experience that whole thing. And his eyes lit up just like he got a puppy for Christmas.
Well, there you go. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, the people that wind up, you make friends with them, but it's interesting. You learn a little bit about their stuff, too. One day, Jay, we are going to get you informed on, DC Comics and the latest Star Wars,
Probably not.
Everything. That's the only if Jay has a fault, it's that he has no geek blood in him at all. So, but at least you're not hostile towards us,
No, I have fun with it. I mean, everything not for everybody.
He'll take your money.
It's
all
go.
right. He'll put a roof on your house.
Yeah, I've never just been that guy. I'm not into sci-fi. I'm not into fantasy, and it's okay.
But
I'm not really a big.
You're a music geek.
I'm a music geek,
which is just as big a geek as anything. You want to watch?
Yeah.
You want to watch Jay lose his mind?
Yeah.
Let him stand in front of Lucille.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The world's most famous guitar.
Yeah.
Let him see of a cornet from 1890. Let him see a drum set from the 1750s. You will watch him geek out.
Yeah.
I promise.
Everybody should have something that they're passionate about.
We all do.
Take them away from. Yeah, and some have multiples, and that's when it really gets expensive.
Yeah. Well, that's okay, though. But it's important to have a good hobby. Well, hey, if you want to talk music or maybe talk about remodeling or replacement of your roof, get in touch with Jay. You can call him directly. You got in about 5 minutes. Hey, feel free. You can call, once the show's over. Just don't call him.
As soon as the storm is over, he'll be ready.
901-484-5645 or go to Big M Roofing and Remodeling.com. Now, Max, I asked you to put a pin in something earlier, and I don't remember what it was, but I feel like we want to, because today is, it's World Food Safety Day, but also we wanted to honor D-Day, the heroes of D-Day, and I think
for sure.
this tied in, right?
Well, it was a project from World War II. A psychologist by the name of B.F. Skinner proposed an idea of using pigeons to guide missiles, which was known as Project Pigeon.
Project. Nothing coy about that. It's just, okay, we're calling it Project Pigeon. So, yeah, we were talking, if you just tuned in, we were talking earlier about some of the unsung heroes of World War II, which were pigeons. We had parachuting dogs. And the pigeon part, though, to me, I'm trying to picture what that actually looks like with they're inside of missiles with little glass windows, and they're directing the missiles. It's like, I think I would be a little skeptical of what if they get into a pigeon fight or something and they direct the missile right back at you, or so.
That's why you're nice to the pigeon.
Well, I'm just saying, what if it's? I mean, to me, the accuracy, I'd be a little concerned about the accuracy of such.
Well, I mean, and how do you know you've got American pigeons? I mean, you could pick a pigeon off the street, and he might be on the opposite team, and just turn it right back around on you.
I didn't think of that. So you're saying they could infiltrate as deeply as corrupting the pigeons, Jay?
Well, from what y'all are saying,
the pigeon is actually Vasily the pigeon.
From what y'all are saying, they're so talented. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a little pigeon espionage.
A double agent pigeon. Now that's worth investigating. Agent 732. That's your next homework assignment. Find out the spy network of pigeons. But don't do it now because the show's over. I hear the music, you guys. So it's been another wide-ranging and dynamic episode of Tool Talk Radio, but it's time to go. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass and our good buddy Jay Hill, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.